A powerful storm system is bringing some high winds, severe weather, and a blizzard to the United States as we speak. We're going to be walking you through the weather pattern with this storm system and many others that are expected to come as we go through the month of March. March is still looking like a volatile month with severe weather, snow, and high winds as we go forward. So if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to my channel here at Weather on the Go so we can get you through the most reliable, accurate weather information here and you can stay ahead of all these storms. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, and share this video with friends, family, and on social media, especially if you do find it informative. So let's look here at our big calm ahead of a low pressure system here. We got a classic cold front severe weather setup across the mid-Atlantic up into the northeast on the warm side. Cold side, we have some heavy deformation snow and very strong winds that are giving us blizzard-like conditions here in parts of the Midwest and into the western Ohio Valley as we go through the day today. But let's look at the severe weather side first and foremost, because we do have a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk of severe that extends from southeast Virginia into the eastern Carolinas there, but even a marginal risk that's a level 1 out of 5 extending as far south as Florida and as far north as Lake Erie. So looking here at the hazards this could bring, the biggest threat by far are those 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, and especially the yellow but even red shaded colors here. This extends from Erie, Pennsylvania to Pittsburgh, all the way down here into Washington, D.C., into places like Wilmington, Raleigh, all the way down into Myrtle Beach and Charleston, South Carolina. So these are the areas at risk for some damaging wind gusts. And then our second biggest risk will be tornadoes. In the green, that's a 2% chance of a tornado within a 25-mile radius there of, say, Pittsburgh, over here to Washington, D.C., and Baltimore, Dover, all the way down here into places like Savannah, Georgia. Now in the brown, that is a 5% chance of a tornado within a 25-mile radius from areas of coastal Virginia down here into places like Norfolk, into Raleigh, into areas of Wilmington, Myrtle Beach, and Charleston, South Carolina. And then our third threat is for hail. Not a lot of instability here in these early March setups, so we could still see some quarter-size hail closer to the cold core of that low, but I don't expect it to be a big deal with the hail out there. Now let's look here at the system in the east. There's the cold front, big squall line of severe weather moving through as we speak, and that'll continue through the afternoon. Heavy rains pumping further north into the northeast, so some isolated flash flooding will be possible, but it looks like the storm's going to be moving pretty fast, so flash flooding is going to be limited, I do think, across the northeast. But if you get under one of those heavier bands of some rain, you definitely could get some localized flash flooding. Here comes the snow, though, on the back side. Believe it or not, we're still in the very late portion of winter, early spring. Spring doesn't officially occur until March 20th, and notice we still have snow for the Great Lakes, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, all the way south even into eastern Tennessee with this system. So let's look at the rainfall side of this storm and the warm side, okay? We're looking at rainfall amounts 1 to 3 inches here, most of us on the lower end of that scale, but wouldn't be surprised to see locally 3 inches here, with multiple rounds of storms from the mid-Atlantic coast up into the northeast here, especially coastal areas from, say, Long Island up there to coastal Maine. Now, as we look at the snowfall side, yes, we have blizzard conditions back here in Iowa, southeast Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan, wind-driven snow, and it will be adding up out there, especially in grassy surfaces, slushy accumulations on the roads. We could be seeing at least 2 to 4 inches, many areas seeing higher than that, especially the further north you go toward Lake Superior. And let's look at the winds. This is why we have blizzard warnings out there in the Midwest. 60 mile per hour wind gusts possible in eastern Iowa today, northern Missouri, and northwest Illinois. 50 mile per hour wind gusts up into Wisconsin, and that'll spread east with time as that back end of the storm system starts to pivot to the east as we go into the Thursday morning commute. Now, behind this, we're going to have what we call a baroclinic zone of we have colder temperatures north and a very sharp gradient with warmer temperatures south, and typically storm systems like to travel along that baroclinic zone, and we definitely see that as we go into later on this week. Turn your attention over here to California. We have some heavier coastal rains in for the foothills, and also some heavy snow for the Sierras as we go into this afternoon. That energy will push into the Four Corners region and the Rockies with some heavy snow out here into Nevada, Utah, Idaho, over into Wyoming, western Colorado, northern Arizona, especially in the higher elevations there. Could get some pretty heavy snowfall on Thursday, and then that low kicks out there on Friday across Kansas into Missouri. Now, it will become a little bit more moisture starved as it pushes a little bit further east in the Midwest. west, but a thin area of some snow, kind of a frontogenesis snow from Chicago back here to Des Moines, Omaha, and Lincoln, Nebraska. Don't be surprised. Could be seeing 1 to 3 inches of some grassy surface type snow, maybe some light slushy accumulations on the roadways. As we go into the weekend, that kind of slips to the east. We got a lot of rain down here near the Gulf Coast. Be watching out for some flooding, especially there for northern Florida, an area that's been very active lately. Could be seeing potentially a couple inches of rainfall there. Southern Georgia, the southern tier of counties there in Georgia, and then north central Florida. So from Tallahassee and the Big Bend area over to Jacksonville, Gainesville, Tampa Bay, Orlando, all the way over there into the east coast of Florida. Be watching out for that. And just along the Gulf Coast in general. So New Orleans, Mobile, those areas could be seeing an inch or so of rain with that storm system. Now the snowfall, we showed you that as well. We are going to be seeing some heavy snow, maybe up to a foot or so in the Sierras and much of the Rockies. And then over here from Nebraska, east to Iowa, northern Illinois, and northern Indiana here, including Chicago, Des Moines, Omaha, and Lincoln, Nebraska. 1 to 3 inches of snow, especially in those grassy surfaces, maybe even some slushy accumulations on the roadways will be possible as we round out the week here. Now let's look as we go into the second week of March. We talked about how March is a volatile month for weather. We have warmer than normal temperatures in the orange east of the Rockies. So we're going to be entering into spring-like territory as we go into next week. Many areas could be taking a run at record territory for our temperatures in the north central U.S., so the Midwest, northern plains, Ohio Valley, Great Lakes could be pushing into the 70s for a period next week, whereas the west out here toward California, Oregon, Nevada, those areas are going to be seeing well below normal temperatures as we go into next week. Now, with such a roller coaster in temperatures, one could only think another significant storm system is brewing, and you would be right. We have another big trough that is coming as we go into to the middle of next week. This is Wednesday, March 12th, a week from today, here across the western United States. That'll pivot down into California, likely bringing more heavy precipitation in the form of rain and snow down there, and then that will eject into the middle of the country. And how it ejects is going to be key. Is it a negatively tilted trough again? That could bring some more significant severe weather. Is it neutrally tilted? Could still see some severe weather, or is it positively tilted and we see less severe weather? That is something to keep an eye on. Now, looking here at the ensemble guidance at the precipitation, California is likely to be the winner here with the most precipitation above normal. Look at the blues and greens here, well above normal precipitation. That'll spread into the Four Corners region and downstream into the United States eastward as well. So watching this on 3 main model camps. This is the European model as we go into next week. This is Monday, March 10th. Notice that energy comes in across the west, slams California. We get some heavy rain, very heavy snows there. Watch as that system comes in. Almost neutral to negatively tilted here. Big cold front severe weather setup. Similar areas to what we just saw. Southern Missouri, Arkansas, down into Louisiana. Snowfall in similar areas as well. And this could be a wind-driven system up there into the Midwest if the European model is right. We look at the trough orientation here with the 500 millibar jet streak. Notice this would give us severe weather from Missouri southward to the Gulf Coast. So be keeping an eye on that if the European model is right. Let's look at the GFS, the American guidance. Very similar, and you can see bringing all that energy in across the west as we go into later next week. A little bit slower of a solution, but you can see a more organized system here, and it pulls the severe weather threat maybe a little bit further north into Missouri and Illinois, so something to keep an eye on there, with a blizzard potentially on the backside in similar areas with that on the GFS run. And GFS, very aggressive in the trough ejection here. Could be seeing a big severe weather outbreak if the GFS model is right, and this has been consistent over the past several runs, and ensemble members actually of the GFS are kind of in agreement with this type of trough ejection. So something to keep an eye on. It may be right, may be wrong, still a few days out. We'll keep you updated. And now let's look at the Canadian model camp. We can actually see more of the same. We have a lot of the precipitation coming in across the west, and the system is a little bit further north up there toward Minnesota. That would bring in Illinois, Missouri, down to the Mississippi Valley type of severe weather setup, with the snow much further north toward the Dakotas, even into southern Canada. And you can see a similar trough ejection projection, not as swift, but definitely a pretty significant trough nonetheless on the Canadian model camp as we go into next week. To bring a little bit more clarity to this storm, we have the ensembles to rely on here. This is the European ensemble guidance, and you can see that this low could have the potential to get very deep as we go into next week, similar to the one we're seeing now. So another significant low pressure system, sub 990, sub 980 millibars could be possible. Notice where you see the blues here. That means that the ensemble doesn't know how far north or south it'll go. Could be as far north as northern Minnesota to develop. Could be as far south as St. Louis down here in southeast Missouri to develop here, or even down into Oklahoma. So we have to kind of figure out how far north or south this system will be, and that will provide the potential for who gets the heaviest rain and who gets the heaviest snow. Right now, the heaviest rain appears to be the mid and lower Mississippi Valley eastward toward the Tennessee, Ohio Valley and into the southeast. The snowfall for now looks to be across the west, so the Sierras and Cascades, near into the Rockies, the watershed out west, and then up here into the upper Midwest, maybe a tad bit further north than our last system, up there into similar areas as well, though. So let's look at the longer range going into later March. Interesting things happening here as well. Mini strat warming event is a stratospheric warming event where the stratosphere warms up. It's around a 1 to 2 week lag. Once the stratosphere warms up, we live in the troposphere. That cold air from the stratosphere penetrates down into the troposphere, and we get affected by our temperatures down here where we live. So notice here as we go through this week, we're starting to see a little bit of that in the stratosphere where it's warming up, is disrupting the polar vortex once again. And then notice as we go into the middle of next week, very strong warming over here near Alaska and over here in toward Asia. And this is going to propel the polar vortex to kind of split off again and give us some colder air in the eastern U.S. as we go in toward later March. So you can see that here on that third week of March. We're talking Monday, March 17th through roughly Friday, March 21st or thereabout, maybe a couple of days after that, 22nd, 23rd. You get the idea. Colder air because of that mini stratospheric warming event, and that could give us colder air. Now, this will be modified cold air. It's not January. We don't have a deep snowpack on the ground. Now, some areas may still have a snowpack up here in the upper Midwest. That could give us even more enhanced cold air, but areas in the lower Midwest, Ohio Valley, just won't have snowpack, so it'll be moderated cold air. But it will be cold for the third week of March, and that will push our storm track further south. Notice we have that low coming down further south near the Gulf Coast and then lifting up to the Ohio Valley there. That could bring us heavier rain, more severe weather to the Gulf Coast, up through the southeast and the northeast there, and then heavier snows from the midwestern regions into the Great Lakes, potentially northwest of the I-95 corridor, Maine, northern New Hampshire, northern Vermont, upstate New York, and then our friends over there in southeastern Canada and Ontario and Quebec would take the brunt of that from that stratospheric warming event. So, lots of information to go around. We have two big storm systems. We have a stratospheric warming event to contend with as we go through a volatile month of March. Continue to stick with me with the latest reliable, accurate weather information here on YouTube or Weather on the Go by subscribing to my channel. We are less than 500 subscribers away from 130,000. You can help me get there by subscribing. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, and also share this video with friends, family, and on social media, especially if you do find it informative and helpful for you. Make sure to do so for that as well. Thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful and safe rest of your Wednesday out there.